All right, hello Titans. This is Josh Granlund here, and I'm going to bring you Connected Classrooms, a tutorial for week 7 using Google Forms. Now recently I used a pretty interesting method in my classroom for using Google Forms. It's a great way for you to get feedback from students, all kinds of like surveys. You can even do quizzes and tests this way. If you connect another app like Flubaroo, it can actually grade your test for you. If it's a multiple choice test, you can give everyone the quiz, through the Google Classroom or something like that. And then with Flubaroo, you can use it to like grade the test, and you can mark out which answers are right. And it's pretty quick, and it'll give you pretty good readout. I'm going to show you a different method than that. So in my New Technology and Art 2 class, I had a worksheet like this. It's for logos. They would design a number of logos. Students would go around. They would give each other feedback based on these pieces here. And then students would refine one of those logos based on that feedback that they got from peers. And I was like, well, that's good. But how can we make this a little bit more real world? And in the real world, if you're a graphic designer, you'd make a logo and then you'd workshop it. And you'd develop the workshop yourself. You'd develop your own survey questions, and you'd send it out to get those responses. So I thought, well, let's try that. Okay. So I got rid of that, and I put up these things on the board. And I told I described each one to students, and they wrote down the definitions. And then I told them, okay, now I want you to develop a survey for your logo based on these questions, and we're going to do it in Google Forms. And so then they had to figure out, well, what kind of questions do I need? What's going to give me the best information? And then we graded their surveys too. And so this is like what they created. Okay, so they took the idea of communication. How well does the logo communicate what the company is about or whatever? And then they have a scale question that goes with it, and then a comment. So students can write in comments. And they go through all the different facets of what makes a good logo, and they include a picture of their logo, and they get these ratings. Now, to make a form inside of Google Classroom or inside of the Drive, I'm going to go to here. And this is the Google Drive. Okay, you click on New here, and it doesn't pop up right away, but if you go to More, you go to Google Forms, here it is. And so I walk the students through how to get to Google Forms, what to name their form, how to write a question. How well does the logo communicate get some punctuation on there, spell check. And then they had to choose from this list. And so they did a lot of figuring out, okay, if they do text, then they'll give me, good answers, but I won't be able to quantify that into a result. When they were all done with their survey, I showed them how to view the responses and go to summary of responses. And so then they would have the communication, how well does the logo, and they would have these numbers, and they would have a pretty clear indicator of what needed to change, and they had these comments that would guide them on their path. And I found this to be an excellent way to have students self-assess and peer assess. And then periodically I'll use this to check for understanding too. I'll send students out a logo, and I'll ask them some questions about the content of that unit, and then they'll send me some responses, and I'll pull up, sometimes I'll even do it live in class. I'll pull up the summary of responses and point out the different answers and see if I got to go over some things again. But Google Forms is a great way to measure formative assessments.